Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Inuit, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation and Treaty 3 territory. I'd like to introduce the members of the panel today, the secretary to the board, and the assessor. For our panel members, we have Robert Kraus to my left. We have Ethan Robson, who is with us on Zoom. And my name is Gisela Rempel. I'll be chairing the meeting today. From the assessment department, we have Eric Gauthier, and our administrative personnel today is Zachary Mohan. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing, and it issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. And I understand because of the postal strike, it will be emailed to you at this time until that is over. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony, followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail or email, as I mentioned, as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 5 to 7 on our docket today. Mr. Mohan, please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony.
Of course, Madam Chair. Mr. Assessor. Thank you. Please state your full name.
Eric Gauthier.
Do you affirm that the evidence about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Sure, boss.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Assessor, we'll be moving to number 5, 18 McGinnis Place. If you would like to make your presentation, please.
Okay, the subject property is roll number 1409811800, commonly referred to as 18 McInnes Place. It's located in the neighborhood of Inkster Gardens. It's a one-story single-family home built in 1983. We have it as in fairly original condition. The living area is 1,273 square feet above grade. We have a full basement with basement finish, 1 full bath, 1 half bath, no extra showers. We do have central AC. We have 2 fireplaces on file, no attached garages. We do have a detached multiple garage, no pools, no sunrooms. It's located on a plot of land that's 5,531 square feet. It's backing a park. You can refer to the map for that. Our 2025 assessed value is pegged at 380,000. Today, I'm presenting 4 comparable sales. They're all in the neighborhood of Inkster Gardens. They're all bungalows, 1-stories, single-family homes built in the 80s. They're all fairly in original condition based on our records here. We've got pretty tight range for living space, 1,068 at the low end, and at the high end, 1,319 square feet. They all have full basement finish, full baths range between 1 and 2. They all have a half bath. Comps 3 and 4 have an extra shower, all have central AC. Fireplaces are present in comps 1 and 3, and 2 and 4 do not have fireplaces. As far as attached garages, comparables 2 and comparables 3 have a multiple attached garage, while comparables 1 and 4 have a multiple detached garage. No pools, no sunroom. Oh, sorry, there is a sunroom for comparable number 1. Land fairly consistent. I mean, none backing the park, but size of the land fairly consistent across the board. Our sale took place in 2021 and 2022. We have sale prices that range between 350 at the low end, and at the high end, I've got 440. That translates to a price per square foot range of 284 at the low end and 401 at the high end. Time adjusted sale prices, so we'll bring these sales forward to our records date of April 1st, 2023. We have a range there between 380 at the low end and 410 at the high end. That translates to an adjusted price per square foot, a time adjusted price per square foot range of 308 to 373. My recommendation is to maintain the current assessed value at 380,000, and just a note that the subject property, I guess, has a superior location to the comparables. Are there any questions at all?
Thank you, Mr. Assessor. Mr. Applicant, do you have any questions of the assessor?
No, I don't have any questions at this moment.
Mr. Kraus, do you have any questions of the assessor?
I have a question.
Mr. Rodson, do you have any questions of the assessor?
No, very straightforward, no questions.
I see here, that the subject property is located on a choice pie lot backing a park. Would that increase the value of the property?
It typically does. That's why I mentioned it. You can see kind of on the map there, if you refer to the map. Typically, you know, a typical adjustment could be 10 or 20,000 for a lot backing apart. I didn't have to sort of adjust for it for the value to be supported, but I mentioned it. So I think it even reinforces that our value's that much more supported. So yeah, I mean, typically people will pay up to be in a better locations.
And I see that your comparable number 1 has a sunroom. I'm assuming that would increase the value of that particular property.
Yeah, to be honest, like sunrooms, it depends on whether or not they're like a kit. Sometimes we have classified as sunroom and it's like, you know, on a footing, a 3-season. I kind of missed this, so I don't know how many square feet that one is, but typically I adjust about $70 a square foot for like a premium sunroom. So, you know, like could be a 10 or 15,000 negative adjustment on that one, depending on the size of the sunroom. They're typically 10 by 12 type size, usually what we see, you know, usually like a kit type. So.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all my questions. I don't know if you would like to summarize, if you think a summary is required.
No, thanks, I'm good.
Okay, I'm gonna then turn it over to the applicant to make your presentation, please.
Thank you. At this point for this property, we would be seeking for a confirmation.
You indicated that you were looking for a confirmation subject to instructions from the owner.
It is based on the fact that we were not able to inspect the property, and as per the owner, he mentioned it to us that the property is not in a great condition and it needs to be dug out. So we couldn't come to an agreement with the owner and set up a time that worked out for both of us for an inspection of this property, and we don't have enough evidence to carry out the hearing right now. So that's why we are seeking for a confirmation.
Okay, thank you. Anybody, Mr. Assessor, do you have any questions of the
No, I do not.
applicant?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Mr. Robson, do you have any questions of the applicant?
No, I do not.
Faust, do you have any questions?
I do.
Okay, and I don't have any questions, so I thank you very much for that, and we will move on to the next item on our agenda today, which is number 6 Talbot Avenue.
673.
Sorry, 763, isn't it?
76, there you go.
763 Talbot Avenue. Mr. Assessor, if you would like to make your presentation.
The subject property is roll number 140919910000, commonly referred to as 763 Talbot Avenue. It's located in the neighborhood of East Elmwood. It's a 1.5-story single-family home built in 1947. We do have a small amount of effective age on the dwelling. We have it at 1957. Living area 777 square feet. Above grade, we have a full basement with basement finish, 1 full bath, no half baths, no extra shower. We do have central AC on file, no fireplaces, no attached garages. We have a single detached garage. No pools, no sunrooms. It's located on a plot of land that's 3,978 square feet. So it's on Talbot, so it's a busy street, bus going by, traffic. Comes with all that baggage. We've got our 2025 assessed pegged at our assessed value pegged at 242,000. Today I'm presenting 4 comparables. They're located in the nearby neighborhoods of Chalmers and also in East Elmwood. Most are 1.5 stories, comp 2 is a 1 story. They're built in the 40s, 50s. Size range a little bit larger than the subject, but the low end 852 square feet, high end 900 square feet. They all have full basements. All have basement finish except comp number 3 does not have basement finish. We have full baths ranging between 1 and 2, half baths ranging between 0 and 1. We have showers ranging between extra showers ranging between 0 and 1. Central AC present in comparables 1 and 2. We have no fireplaces, no attached garages. Comparables 1 and 3 have single detached garages. None of them have pools, none have sunrooms. The land fairly consistent, but comp 1 is on a little bit larger parcel at 5,096 square feet. The rest are fairly close to the subject. As far as size, I do like comparable 4 for a lot of reasons. Similar dwelling, similar lot size. So I did put a little bit more weighting on that. The sales took place in 2021 and 2022, and I have one that's March 1st, 2023. So in that time frame, and the sales range between 205 at the low end and 242 at the high end. That translates to a price per square foot range of $229 a square foot to $275 a square foot. The time adjusted sale prices range between $195 at the low end and $234 at the high end. The time adjusted sale price per square foot ranges between $217 to $275 a square foot. Originally, my recommendation was to reduce the assessed value to 230 based on the comparables. I did go over the applicant's brief. They're asking for 225. I feel like it's close enough, so I'm willing to change my recommendation to 225 and match the appellant's recommendation. Just a quick note, we did do an exterior inspection, and the exterior of the property has received some TLC, so it's like it's been painted, some stucco, possibly roof shingles, based on a drive-by. The garage, from what I can tell, looks like a tear down. So those are the things we observed from the outside. But the comparables, especially the one on Talbot, I feel like is in similar condition. Note it is a little bit larger, and based on that, I'm willing to make a recommendation at 2.25 to 225.
Thank you for your presentation. Mr. Applicant, do you have any questions of the assessor?
I do have a couple of questions. So, would you agree that one story houses would sell for typically a higher price than 1.5 story?
Typically, yes, they do.
Okay. Okay. And my second question would be, if you look at the living area for the comps, comp one and comp four, like all of the comps, they are slightly larger than our subject property. Have you considered any downward adjustment for that?
Um, yeah, you could definitely downward adjust it. The thing with this particular property and with adjustments is you gotta know your land values, and then you subtract the land and you're left with the residual value. And then you can figure out an adjustment per square foot. So something like this, if the land's worth, say, 180, your residual is quite small, so your adjustment per price per square foot on the dwelling would be a lot lower than you see the typical adjustments would be, because it's loaded heavily more on the land value, because you're dealing with houses where, or properties where, in this particular case, the value of the dwelling versus the value of the land, is quite a spread there. So the adjustment wouldn't be substantial, but it's definitely warranted. I did look for smaller 1.5 stories. It's not easy to find like a 700 square foot 1.5 story. So that's why I'm recommending, like you'll notice some of the values are higher. I'm recommending 2.25, which I'm matching what you've requested as well. Because it is a little bit smaller, but honestly, 938 Talbot is about as similar as a comp that I could find anyway. So that's why I feel like putting a little bit more weight on that particular one. I do agree, the bungalow is not ideal. Yeah, so maybe we could put more focus on the comparables that are more similar to the subject.
Okay, so just to summarize, you do agree that there would be some sort of downward adjustment based on the living area. I'm just summarizing it.
Yeah, we can. I mean,
Yeah, that's okay. I don't need any quantified. I don't need any number
yeah,
for
I
like.
mean, I didn't really do a land value study, but I
That's
mean,
okay.
But basically, take the land, strip the land out, whatever you're left with. I mean, the garage is worthless, in my opinion. So that was another factor here. Whatever you're left with is the residual. Divide that by the amount by 777. You're gonna have a pretty small adjustment per square foot. But yeah, technically it could be applied. We'll see what kind of comparables you found, Chard. But yeah, I'm willing, I think I read your brief and you're asking for 2.25, so I'm kind of meeting your values.
Okay, my final question would be, when I look at your comp 1, comp 2, and comp 3, those 3 properties are not on a busy street. They don't have land influences of being on the bus route or medium traffic. Again, would you agree that this would also warrant for some sort of downward adjustment?
Typically, yeah, but this area is pretty heavy on rentals. So what you'll notice is comp 4, is higher than comps 1 and comps 3. And meanwhile, it's on Talbot on the bus route. So when you're dealing with rentals, which I believe the subject is, being on a bus route and being in a convenient location can sometimes outweigh the poor location. So in this particular case, like I said before, to take any speculation away from what that traffic and bus impact, how much that impacts the value, just look at comp number 4, and it's got the same bus and medium traffic. So that's one of the primary reasons I put a little more weighting on that one. But yeah,
Okay.
typically I do adjust for a bad location, but here, when you're dealing with smaller rentals like this, it may not have as big of an impact as, say, a bad location in Tuxedo or something.
Okay, so just like a comment or a question. So if I just look at your comp 4 and compare that to our subject, it's a little larger than our subject property, so there would be some sort of adjustment made for that as well, though, correct?
Yeah, like I said, it did sell for 242. So I'm not suggesting it's worth that or anything like that, but. So at
But
two
if
and a
you look
quarter,
at
I think we're pretty close anyways.
Okay, yeah, that's all my questions were. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Robson, do you have any questions?
No, I do not have any questions.
Mr. Kraus, do you have any questions? You don't have questions? Okay, I just have a couple of things. One is if your recommendation of 225 is accepted, how much is that per square foot?
I guess we would just do 225, but I was never trained to appraise in that way, so if you guys want to do the math for yourselves. So there's a lot of problems with using prices per square foot. So I'll give you some examples, and one of them is if you're dealing with property where the value is mostly in the land, you understand that the methodology of using price per square foot is extremely.
It's okay, I've got the answer, so.
But yeah.
I appreciate that comment on your part. The other question I had is if I take a look at, you've attached some pictures.
Mhm.
And you said that the outside of the home had been.
Yeah.
Had some remedial work done to it.
Yeah, you can see, so the Google Street View I put in from May of 2021 versus we had one of our assessors drive by, it was the last week or the week before, the last 2 weeks, you can see the difference there. So the exterior has had some TLC, but you can also see in the second picture, the garage that looks pretty much like a tear down to me. Like I said, I reviewed, especially comparable, at 938 Talbot, and that one's also received some renovations and TLC and looking good, so. They've had, and that's why I actually added the 10 years effective age on file. We didn't have it on file, we had it as original condition, so based on the exterior work that's been done. We've adjusted for that.
When I looked at the house, 763 Talbot.
Mhm.
The picture that you submitted, I noticed that there are some very large cedars in the front. Of that house. And when I look at. What you say is the May 2021 Google Street View
Do I have
showing
it
the
wrong?
exterior.
Yeah, do we have the wrong house? I don't know, they look similar.
Because I went on, I
Okay.
just wanted to advise you of that, because I went
Okay.
on Google Maps and this is the neighborhood. This is not,
That's a neighboring house, okay.
that is
So they built-
765.
Wow, they look similar, right?
I know, I just saw
Okay.
the cedars and I thought, you know,
Okay, you picked up the
So-
wrong house, so is the 2021 Street View, is it similar to what we have here? So the main thing for me is that the exterior looks pretty fresh based on when we drove by it. I didn't realize that there's a twin house next door. That's a good point.
anyway, I
Thanks for taking
didn't
that up.
know if anything had in fact been done to the exterior or if you had
It looks pretty,
taken that into consideration
Yeah,
in terms
so
of your
in the
recommendation.
in the photos, it looks pretty fresh, like the outside's been, you can tell the roof's been done, it looks like newer windows and the stucco's in really good shape, like the exterior has been worked on. So whether that happened last year, the year before, or 5 years ago, I'm not sure, but yeah, interesting, two houses, same house next door.
Okay, I think that's all my questions, so I will turn it over to the applicant to make your presentation, please.
Thank you. If I may ask the board to turn to page number 8, I have presented 4 comps.
Okay,
So I presented 4 comps. All the 4 comps are in the same neighborhood as our subject property, East Elmwood. All the 4 comps are same build type as our subject. All of them are 1.5 story. Comp 1 is built in 1949, which is very similar to our subject property's age. It has a living area of 900 square feet. It does have a finished basement. The lot size is also very similar at 4,169, and it shares the same it shares the same site influences as our subject property as well. This property was sold on December 21st at 242,000, and it comes down after time adjustment to $229,400. My comp 2 is 808 Manhattan Avenue in the same neighborhood, same build type. It's built in 1949, which is very similar to our subject property. It has a 900 square feet of living area. It does not have a finished basement. It has a similar lot size at 4,236 square feet. It does not have any site influences, so there needs to be some sort of adjustment made for that. This property was sold in November 21 at 224,000, and the time adjusted price comes to $214,600. My COM 3 is on the same street as well, 779 Talbot Avenue. This is slightly older than our subject property, built in 1923. It's a little larger than our subject property at 1,268 square feet of living area. It does not have a finished basement. It has a slightly smaller lot size at 3,083 square feet. It shares the same site influences as our subject property. This property was sold in January of 22 for 249,000, and it comes to after time adjustments at 233,800 square feet. For this property, I would like to mention that this property has a larger living area, so there needs to be some sort of downward adjustment made for that. And this does not have a finished basement, so there would be an upward adjustment for that as well. Our comp 4 is 811 Beach Avenue. This property is again built in 1949, very similar to our subject property. It is of 910 square feet living area. It does not have a finished basement. It has a slightly larger lot size at 4,472 square feet. It does not have any site influences. This property was sold in July of 22 for 250,000, and with time adjusted price, it comes to 226,000. These are the 4 comps that we are using today, and our requested value for 763 Talbot Avenue is 225,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Mr. Assessor, do you have any questions of the applicant?
No, other than it looks like we agree.
Okay. Mr. Probst, do you have any questions of the applicant? Mr. Robson, do you have any questions?
No questions. It sounds like they agree on the reduction to 225. So.
Okay, and I am just wondering one thing, and that is for your comparisons that you have provided to us here. I note that when the city assessors give us their comparisons, they always indicate whether, you know, there have been upgrades that have been done to the homes, and you have not provided that. I note that the subject property had been upgraded from 1947 to 1957. And I'm wondering if any upgrades have been made to these comparisons you have provided.
The comparables that I have provided. So we don't have enough data in our system to see if there's any effective year age on these properties. Just like how city is presenting effective year build on their briefs, we don't have that luxury of having that information in our systems to find out if there were any effective year builds on these properties. But I did check the permits for my comparables, and there were no permits for these properties online at least.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm assuming there were no permits. I'm assuming that there wouldn't be any upgrades done to these properties.
Thank you very much. And I think that concludes our presentation for number 6 on the docket today. So we will move to number 7, which is 55 Royal Park Crescent. And I will hand it over to you, Mr. Assessor, to make your presentation.
Subject property is roll number 0600233160, commonly referred to as 55 Royal Park Crescent, located in the neighborhood of Southland Park. It's a 2-story single-family home built in 1998. We have no effective age on the property, so we have that as 1998, so fairly original condition. We have a living area at 3,438 square feet. We do have a walkout basement. Basement is finished. We have 4 full baths, 1 half bath, 1 extra shower. We have central AC on file, 2 fireplaces, a multiple attached garage, no detached garages, no pools, no sunrooms. It's located on a plot of land that's 12,428 square feet on the pond. The 2025 assessed value is pegged at 1,127,000. Today I'm presenting 4 comparables. Unfortunately, the subject is located in Southland Park. It's a very small neighborhood. And I was hoping to focus more on properties that are on the lake because they're kind of in a league of their own. So I had to venture off in the nearby neighborhood of Royalwood for all 4 of my comparables. I did look at Southland Park and didn't find anything appropriate. They're all 2-story homes. Note that comparable 4 we have is a 2-1, so it's basically a 2-story. Half of it's a 2-story, and then there's a 1-story section to it, but essentially a 2-story home. The year builds range between 2001 and 2009. Same goes for the effective age. The range and size of dwellings ranges between 3,033 at the low end and 3,918 at the high end. They all have a walkout basement except comparable number 2 does not have a walkout, just a full basement. All have basement finish. All have for full baths that range between 2 and 4. For half baths ranges between 1 and 2. For extra showers range between 1 and 2. Central AC is present in all of the comparables. Fireplaces range between 1 and 2. They all have attached multiple garage. No detached garages. Note that there are pools in comparables number 1 and comparables number 4. As far as sunrooms go, none of the comps have sunrooms. The land varies quite a bit. Comparable 2 at the low end, 8,485 and not on the pond. And then the high end, I've got comparable number 3, which is at 13,771 square feet on the pond. The sales took place in 2021 and 2022. Sale prices range quite a bit. So at the low end, I've got 1,110,000, and at the high end, 1,555,000. That translates to a price per square foot that ranges between 283 at the low end and 462 at the high end. The time adjusted sale price that ranges between 1,150,000 to 1,470,000 rounding. Time adjusted sale price per square foot ranges between 293 and 447. I'm recommending to maintain the assessed value of 1,127,000 as supported by the comparable sales. Just a quick little note. When I was reviewing this, our model value is based on a full basement and not a walkout. I looked at our satellite view and saw that it was a walkout, so I made that change in our system. We are not sending a supplementary notice because we're basically taking it as if maybe we made the mistake. So we're leaving it for a reassessment, that change. So that could be why it looks like our value is low here. But we're willing to leave that till the next reassessment. Are there any questions at all?
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, do you have any questions at all of the assessor?
Yes, I do have questions. So for comp 1 and comp 2, have you made any adjustments for the year build?
I have not. I haven't provided like full adjustments on this brief. But,
Okay, but would you agree that there would be some sort of adjustment needed as these 2 properties are significantly newer than our subject, about 10 years to 11 years?
yeah, so typically if you wanted to come up with an adjustment for year build, we usually use a 70-year scale for depreciation. So what you do is subtract the land, you're left with the dwelling, then you figure out percentage wise, how many years out of 70 have gone by, come up with an adjustment on the dwelling portion only. So yeah, like I said, some of these briefs put in a lot of time and work. You can get into splitting hairs with stuff like this. But that's how you would come up with an adjustment like that. But the reason why I wouldn't worry too much about it, if any of you here walked through a house built in the late 90s, you know, you're familiar with the honey oak cabinetry, kind of, if it's original, kind of starting to look dated. Pretty much if you walked into a 2008 house at this point, you would walk through it and you'd see like, they would kind of already start looking dated too. You'd have that espresso cabinetry that everyone used in 07, 08, and things start looking dated. So they end up both looking kind of dated at this point if they haven't had any upgrades. Typically the upgrades start coming through in year like 20, year between 15 and 20 years. And then there's a huge difference, right? It's like, well, we got brand new kitchens and baths and flooring and all that. So dated 08, dated 98. Depends who you talk to, but I don't know how much I would worry about that. And there again, there's other adjustments here. We've got pools on some of them. I mean, you can adjust 60 grand for a pool. You can adjust for size. One doesn't have a walkout basement, so you know, land size. Like you can spend a lot of time on something like this. But yeah, I wish I had perfectly clean comps and didn't require.
So just to wrap that up, the answer to your, the question.
Yes, you could, some appraisers would say, okay, well, there's a little bit more wear and tear, but in my opinion, they're both getting to the point where they're dated.
But you didn't in this
I
particular
didn't
case.
provide any adjustments, and I'm not saying that none are warranted, I'm just.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yes,
Leah?
yes. So my second question would be related to comp 1 and comp 4. These two comps have pools in it. And would you agree that usually properties with pools would have a different sector of buyers who are typically looking for just properties with pools, and they might be willing or would be willing to pay a premium for those properties?
Yeah, yes and no, depends who you ask. During the pandemic, we did see a lot of interest in pools. You know, people were a prisoner of their backyards, so we saw a lot of added value in this particular cycle given to pools, so definitely. I don't know if that'll maintain on the next cycle, but for this particular case, yeah, but you can see. So to prove the other argument is comparables number 3, right? Like that's the highest sale we have and it doesn't have a pool, so pools can sometimes limit markets too. So in certain market conditions, it may take longer to market and sell a house with a pool, and there are less people who want that type of property. So it's a catch-22. I mean, I typically do a pause, like an adjustment of 60,000 for a pool. If it's in good shape, it's been maintained, it doesn't need like the liner, the heating system, like it's not gotten to the point where it needs a bunch of maintenance, I'll adjust 60K on it typically, which is about half the cost of putting one in.
Just to make a comment on your comment that you said that comp 3 was sold higher than comp 1 and comp 4. If you also look at the living area for comp 3, it is significantly higher than comp 1 and comp 4. Comp 1 is at 3,000 square feet roughly. Comp 2 is at roughly 3,200 square feet, and comp 3 is at 3,800 square feet. So I think that is another huge factor why comp 3 was sold for higher than comp 4 and comp 1, not only the pool.
Yeah,
But-
well, if you're asking me what I think Ashar, if I walked you through a house that was 3,438 square feet and then immediately walk you through a house that was 3,799, you might have difficulty knowing which one was bigger. So
No.
yes and no. When you're dealing with that type of size, sometimes it can be difficult to, you know, to register that extra few hundred square feet because it's a lot of square footage to begin with. But you know, some appraisers would adjust a little bit for size there. But you have to be careful because the larger the dwelling, the more the value of those square feet can start to diminish depending on the neighborhood you're in. So it's not, the value of the first, in Southland Park, I would say the value of the first 2,500 square feet would be more valuable than the next 1,000. So you need a very experienced appraiser to start pegging these type of adjustments.
I do agree that, you know, if we walk through 34, 38 square feet of our subject to COM3, it would be difficult to, you know, get an idea of the difference. But I was only making a comment on COM1, COM4 compared to COM3, which are significantly smaller than COM3. But that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're, you know, with something this unique, it's hard to find the exact comps here, right? Like, we're not talking about
Yeah.
1,000 square foot bungalow in Windsor Park here, because then I can get you perfect comps. We're dealing with kind of a unusually large house for Southland Park, and you know, like late 90s construction when they just kind of started doing the walkout thing. So yeah, it wasn't easy. I had to go into Royalwood, so it shows you that I really had to dig for these. So they're not going to be all identical. There's going to be some differences. So what it's doing is it's providing us a range. And like I mentioned before, like I honestly feel that our assessed value is low on this particular property. But I'm comfortable asking to maintain the value.
My final question would be, I'm just noticing that out of 4 comps of yours, 2 of them are on Wilmington Drive, COM3 and COM4, and both of them are very close to each other. And if you look at the sale prices for those 2 comps, they are north of 1.5 million, whereas all the other comps have a sale prices of around 1.1 million, just like our subject, or 1.2 million. Is there something that we are missing out on these 2 comps? Are these like superior comps, or are these, or this part of Wilmington Drive is superior?
Yeah, what I'll say to that is this. So in Southland Park, the subject is stands out as to me as the top of the market for that particular area versus Wilmington. There would be more, like it would be easier to find similar houses of similar stature. So it is this touch overbuilt for Southland Park, in my opinion. But there again, that's kind of tough to peg a value to that factor. Like, if you were to look at historical sales in that area, I don't think there's very many over 3,000 square feet. So this house was kind of like the cream of the crop for that neighborhood. One of the better locations on the pond. And it was built maybe slightly overbuilt. I will definitely say that. And then if you were on Wilmington, you'd probably drive down the street and be like, you know, you could find 5 or 6 that are up there, right? So yeah, it is a factor. And if I had to choose between a house on Wilmington and a house on Royal Park Crest, and they were priced similarly and they offered similar, you know, I would definitely choose the one on Wilmington. So yeah.
So by what you've just told us, I'm coming to a conclusion that properties on Wilmington would be a little superior.
Yeah, you'll find
Okay.
that you'll find that Wilmington is more consistent. Okay, so if you're buying a $1 million+ house on the pond and you're on Wilmington, all of your neighbors are a lot more similar. If you're buying the subject property, you're standing out as like, that's the house on the street. So yeah, there's in appraisal theory, we call that the principle of regression and progression. I don't know how much it impacts the value, and I don't think it's not a terrible neighborhood. We're not talking about a mansion like somewhere where it completely doesn't belong, but it's the top of the, you know, it's probably the nicest house in Southland Park, or one of the nicer ones, right? Versus Wilmington, where you can drive around and find many, many similar homes, right? So yes, I definitely agree that that's a factor here.
Okay, thank you. Those were all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Kraus, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so just the 2 neighborhoods,
Mhm.
would you say that they are comparable? It's not like we're doing a Crescentwood versus Old Tuxedo sort of comparison.
Oh, yeah, you never compare Old Tuxedo with anything other than Wellington Crescent. We've been through this, but so Southland Park is I mean, they were developed in a similar era, so that I liked.
Okay.
I looked for houses on the pond. There was literally one other sale in Southland Park of a much smaller house that totally not like the subject. That's all I could find. So then I have to scratch my head and go, well, I didn't really want to go into Sage Creek because there you're dealing with 2015 and
Right.
newer, right? So that's also, so Ashar would have been like, hey, wait a minute, you've got 20, a house that's 20 years newer, right? So I didn't want to do that. So the best I could come up with was Royalwood. Bonta Vista also too new. And I really felt like it's important to be on the pond. Otherwise, you got to start looking at a land adjustment that's quite substantial. Like in the hundreds, like it could be 100 or 150 grand for the location adjustment. So another way to get here is you could have maybe found houses in, you know, Southland Park and then adjust for the pond location, but that gets really dicey. So this is the best I had. I know there's a big spread here. Like I mentioned before, I feel like our value is low because we didn't have the proper data. I've updated the data now and we'll probably be here on the next cycle discussing the goods value.
So is the subject is one of the few houses in the Southland area that is that large.
From
And
what
on-
I,
and
from
on-
what I know of the neighborhood, this is unusual. You're not gonna find 3,000 square feet plus houses. You're not gonna find many of them. If there's any, like it may be the largest house. It's like it's up there. It's definitely the premium or one of the premium houses in the whole neighborhood.
Right.
Right, so me personally, given the choice, if, you know, there is a saying in real estate that like you wanna buy the smallest, littlest, crummiest house in the nicest neighborhood, right? That's called the principle of progression. So you buy that house and your neighbors help boost your value, right? Versus you have the nicest house in the neighborhood and you're kind of capped. So
Right.
that's called the principle of regression. So this house here is a premium, it's the top of the market for Southland Park, there's no doubt about it. I'm pretty sure if someone combed our assessment value map, you would see that that one stands out as one of the higher values. But it's nothing brutal where I'm like, this house just doesn't belong there. Like, no one's gonna drive by and go like, who built this here? And like, this makes no sense. And like it doesn't stand out that bad, but it's definitely the top of the market. And it that can sort of cap and impact the value. So I'm just mentioning it. I don't know, I can't really give you a number of how much that is or, but yeah, it's definitely a thing.
So you're, just so that I understand, it's this house in Southland Park is sort of limited because of the value of the neighbors. Because there is nothing, like, I'm not saying that they're garbage next to it, but they're not as big. And there's only so much value that you develop in that neighborhood because of where it is.
Yeah, I'd be scared to dump like $500,000 in this house because you probably wouldn't get it.
Right, whereas opposed to.
Or on maybe
one
on
of the comps,
Wilmington,
right?
Wilmington you would, right? Where you could say, well, I'm pushing 2 million and now I'm at the top. of the
Because you're
market.
in a neighborhood that has equal or comparable.
Or sometimes just a street, for example, like there are certain streets, premium streets, like even in Sage Creek. Where you have the premium builders built on that street, so that particular street. Can hold a higher value than say another, you know, like if you're comparing Wildflower in Sage Creek to East Plains or West Plains, and you drive down both of those streets, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Like one of them just can handle higher values than the other street. So Ashar made a good point. And that's, you know, I'm definitely coming clean with that. This house is one of the premium houses. It may have been, sometimes what happens in these developments is one of the builders or at the time somebody, like I just added one to the roll in Bonta Vista where there's a house that's on a double lot. It's way bigger than anything else. And it's just like, whoa, it's the house in the neighborhood. So kind of the same situation, right? Sometimes one person kind of takes things over the top, but yeah, it's not, if you drove by it, it wouldn't be something shocking. It would just be,
It still blends into the neighborhood.
yeah, it still blends into the neighborhood. It still looks like the other houses. It's just size wise. It's definitely a lot bigger than most of the houses. Most of the houses in that neighborhood you'll find are probably closer to the 2,500 square foot range. So.
Those are all questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Robson, any questions?
Nope, my questions have been asked and answered.
I just have one question, and that is, I thought you said you thought that this was just a basement, not a walkout basement, and that you had changed that?
Yeah.
But you've got walkout basement here, in
So,
terms of the information you've provided us.
Yeah. so when I started looking into this, at the beginning of the appeal process here, I noticed in our satellite view that the back was a walkout basement, and we had it as a full basement. So basically making that change in our model recognizes that houses with walkout basements generally go for more, so our model value went up. Okay, so I had a choice there to either send a supplementary notice, invalidate this whole appeal and increase the value, or leave it be and say, you know what, we're owning up to this, maybe it was our mistake, and we'll just leave it till the next cycle. So that's what I chose to do on this. I also did a valuation review to see like, hey, like, when we make a change to a property and our model value goes up, we need to also, as assessors, look at it and say like, if we send this increase in value to this homeowner, can we defend this value, and does this value make sense? And also, was it possibly our mistake? And if it is our mistake, sometimes we just roll into the next. So
So why was this changed to walkout basement if you're only considering the walkout basement in the sub?
because I'm providing what the house is right now, its current condition. So it is a walkout basement. If I left it as full, I'd be giving you misinformation. So
Okay, so if it was a full basement rather than a walkout basement, which the rest are walkout well,
No,
sorry, comp
John
two is
Bruce,
a
yeah.
full basement. What kind of value does that add to a home?
So typically, I've done the research on this in the past, and there's two factors that come into play when you're dealing with walkout basements. One of them is land. You can't just build a walkout on any old piece of land. The land has to be sloped in a way, typically on a pond, you'll see them, or sometimes on a park. But you need a land that has that functionality to it. So right away, the land value is higher. The second thing is, when you're building a walkout, there's about a $50,000 difference. I mean, it depends on the size, but roughly I usually adjust $50K. Because the builder now has to build a structural wood floor and a crawl space underneath. And the cost usually is up about $50K. But it's not as simple as saying, well, a walkout versus a non-walkout is $50K, because you're also dealing with a land adjustment. So it would be, if you found a similar house that was on a walkout capable plot of land and someone decided not to do that, you'd be at around a $50,000 difference on a standard size house. Obviously, if we're dealing with large square footage, it could be more than that, but there is a spread, and a builder will charge you more to build a walkout. No doubt about it.
So that hasn't been,
Factored in.
factored in?
No.
So then, may I ask, what in your mind would be your best comparable to the subject property? Would it be comp two?
No, actually, comp two is probably the least comparable out of all of them, to be honest with you. Reason being is it's not a walkout. The plot of land is much smaller. If you've ever driven down John Bruce Road,
I haven't.
so what you'll find is John Bruce Road was basically developed in spats and sold off to whoever wanted to buy land. So you have this kind of mishmash of like whatever builders. It's not an organized development. So very different than if you drove down Royal Park Crescent or you drove down Wilmington. So John Bruce, in my opinion, is really not a great comp.
So which would be your best comparable?
My best comp would be the one that didn't sell in Southland Park. That I couldn't find, but if you're asking for one, I mean, probably like East Oak, or just because HR did mention Wilmington, it is a premium street, there's no doubt about it. I mean, East Oak is a very nice street as well. But yeah, to me, that would be maybe the closest, but then you're also dealing with the age difference there, so 9, 10, 11 years, so there's some depreciation there. But if anything, our value, I'll repeat again, I think our value is touch low. Based on what I could find, like these properties are very difficult to peg an exact value to, just because there's lack of comparables. To be quite honest with you, probably the best way to value this is a cost of construction. Like, I haven't provided one. I've done it in the past in a few instances in my briefs, but figuring out the value of the land, figuring out the cost to construct, figuring out the depreciation would probably be the most accurate way to appraise this property.
Thank you. Okay, that's all my questions, so I'll turn it over to the applicant to make your presentation, please.
Thank you. If I may request the board to please proceed to page number 8. I have presented 4 comps. Are you guys on page 8?
Yeah.
Okay. So I presented 4 comps. Again, the Southland Park is a very small neighborhood. We were not able to find any comps similar to our subject property in Southland. So I expanded my research and I went to Royalwood neighborhood and Sage Creek neighborhood. I'm presenting 2 comps from Royalwood and 2 comps from Sage Creek. Both these neighborhoods are very close to our subject properties neighborhood, Southland Park. My comp 1 is 266 Orchard Hill Drive. It's in Royalwood. It is a 2-story, very similar built age in 1996. The living area of this property is 2,750 square feet, smaller than our subject property. It does have a finished basement. This property does not have a pool, and it has a significantly larger lot size at almost 22,000 square feet. And this property is also on the pond, just like as our subject property. This property was sold in October 22 for $1,050,000, and with time adjustment to our reference date, the value comes down to $1,009,100. I have not made any adjustments for the first comp in terms of living area or lot sizes. I felt that it has a smaller living area, but it has a significantly larger lot size, and it kind of makes up for it. For comp 2, I have 90 East Oak Drive. Again, it's in a Royalwood neighborhood. It's a 2-story. It's built in 2009, 11 years newer to our subject property. It has a larger living area at 4,089 square feet. It has a finished basement. It has a lot size of 13,267, very similar to our subject. This property is also on pond. It was sold in November of 22 for $1,200,000, and after time adjustment, this property comes to $1,171,200. I haven't quantified these adjustments, but I strongly believe that there needs to be some sort of downward adjustment for COM 290 East Oak Drive, as this property is built in 2009, which is 11 years newer to our subject, and it has a larger living area at 4,089 square feet, which comes about almost 650 square feet. Moving ahead to COM 3. COM 3 is 23 West Plains Drive. This is in Sage Creek neighborhood. This property is very newer to our subject. It is built in 2019. It has a very similar living area at 3,458 square feet. It has a fully finished basement, a similar lot size as well at 11,110 square feet. This property is also on the pond. It was sold in September of 2021 for $1,180,000, and after time adjustment, the price comes to $1,207,000. Again, there would be some sort of adjustment needed, downward adjustment needed for this property for the year built in 2019, and I believe this property, because it's built in Sage Creek, which is a newer development neighborhood. It will be classified a little more desirable or superior to our subject properties neighborhood, Southland Park. My fourth com is 43 Borealis Bay. It's in Sage Creek, two-story, built in 2014. Some smaller living area, 2,497 square feet. It definitely warrants an upward adjustment to bring it up to our subject property's living area of 3,438 square feet. It has a larger lot size, almost 3,000 square feet larger than our subject. So there would be some sort of downward adjustment for this. This property is also on the pond as well, just like our subject. This property was sold in December of 22 for 1,120,000, and the value comes after time adjustment. We get a value of 1,093,100. If you move down to your next pages, I have also attached pictures of all the four comps. On page 11, you can see comp 1, which is built in 1996. And we can look at the finishes of our first comp, keeping in mind that our subject property has never gone into renovations and it was built in 1998. I don't have right now. I don't have pictures for our subject property, but I thought it would be a good idea to present pictures of all the comparables that I'm using, just so you can get an idea of the build quality and finishes of these comparables and the differences they would make in prices. On page number 13, I have pictures for our Com 2, which was built in 2009, which is 90 East Oak Drive. On page number 15, I have pictures for our Com 3, which is 23 West Plains, which is in Sage Creek neighborhood, built in 2019. It has a very similar living area and a similar lot size. And that was my main reason why I decided to choose this comp. And then if you move further down, you would see pictures of comp number 4 on page number 17. Again, this property is built in 2014, which is relatively very newer to our subject as well, and smaller in living area. But it was difficult to find comps that were very similar to our subject. So I tried my best. If you would ask me which would be my strongest comp or most desirable or comp, I would go with comp number 1, 266 Orchard Hill Drive. And then I would also look at comp 2 and comp 3. Those three would be my most strongest comps, but I would give more weightage to comp 1. So these are the 4 comps that we have presented today, and we are asking the board to reduce the current assessment at 1,030,000.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Assessor, do you have questions of the applicant?
Just one. So you say some sort of adjustment is required for comparable ones and 4 for size. By my calculation, we're looking at 172,000 adjustment and 250,000 adjustment if we're using 250 a square foot. By the time you adjust these, you don't agree that our assessed value is right in line?
Which comp are you talking about? Comp 1 or comp 4?
So like when you're comparing a comparable at 2497 square feet, like comp 4, that's 1,000 square feet difference. So I've done the math on this stuff before. I mean, at $250 a square foot dwelling adjustment, that's a 250K adjustment. These are heavy adjustments. So to skim over and just say like there's an adjustment warranted, that's fine, but these are big numbers we're talking about here. Once they're applied, they come in line with the rest of the comparables. So that's kind of what I'm asking is like, is the same story? Would you end up with the same valuation conclusion if you did apply a fair market adjustment on the dwelling sizes?
And I do agree that comp 4 would need an adjustment. That's why I made it clear that my strongest comps are comp 1, comp 2, and comp 3. I do have comp 4 over there, but I have not given enough weightage to comp 4. If you ask me why have I not adjusted anything for the living area in comp 1, I think if you look at the lot size, which is almost at 22,000 square feet, which is about 10,000 square feet larger than our subject, I think it does make up for the smaller living area of about 700 square feet.
All right,
Hope that
that's my
answers.
questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robson, do you have any questions?
Just, you were able to provide, pictures of all of the comparables. How come no pictures of the subject property?
So actually, we were not able to get a hold of the owner of this property. I tried asking him. I was not able to get a hold of him. We couldn't have a proper communication through emails or a phone call. So, and there was a date to submit the evidence. So I did what I could. The best that I could. You know, that is my answer for this.
So to your knowledge, you said that there was no renovations interior wise, but, you didn't have communication with the owner to determine that?
No, I looked at the permits. There were no permits pulled. I talked to the assessor as well. If you look at assessor's brief, it does say that the effective year bill is 1998, which means that there were no upgrades, or even the city does not have any data on that. So I'm going by that.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Krebs, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple of things, if you don't mind. I am wondering, I don't see anywhere here on your presentation of your comparables, do these all have walkout basements?
All of these do have walkout basements. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned it under the basement finish as well. Yes,
Okay.
they do. All of these four comps do have a walkout basement. Sorry, thank you.
No,
Thank you
no
for.
problem. I'm also wondering about the parking. For comparable 1 and comparable 4, I guess it is. It doesn't say anything about whether there's garages, single, multiple, attached, detached.
It's a good question. So honestly, I pulled some of these sales from the city's sales book. There was not data provided on the sales book if they have a garage or no. But if you want, I can check it right now and let you know if that is
Well, I
fair.
see from your photos of your comp 4, they do
There,
have a garage. I don't know if it's
if it's a triple garage or a double garage.
yeah, I don't know. But do they all have attached garages?
I'm assuming they would have attached garages by looking if there are photos of it. I don't remember it on top of my head, but if you want, I can look at the listings right now and see.
That's okay. I was just wondering if you had that at your fingertips.
Yeah.
The other thing I was wondering about is the photos you've submitted. When were those photos taken? Are those MLS listings or
These
from,
are all MLS pictures. So
is it, I'm assuming this is from when they were sold
yes,
or
these
before they were
these
sold?
these are the pictures from around the time they were sold.
Okay.
Usually the listing goes up, and the pictures are from the date of the listing. So they would be around the similar time of the date these properties were sold.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Do you wish to make a summary, Mr. Assessor?
No, I'm good, I think everything is pretty straightforward, thank you.
Mr. Applicant, do you wish to make a summary?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, well, having concluded, our last item on the docket today, that will conclude our meeting and we will adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Well, good luck with your insurance company.